Chapter 7 of When Woman Proposes by Anne Warner. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Read by Jen Broda. Chapter 7. The Bird Takes Flight. The next morning, Captain Francis Mowbray left the house where he had spent nearly 4 months. He went directly after breakfast, as he had much to attend to before taking his train. Besides, he discovered that his hostess contemplated an early departure, and he accompanied her and her maid to the station before going about his own business. "I don't like your taking today to travel," he said, as they drove over the asphalt together. "Things are looking blacker than ever. One begins to feel all manner of portentous possibilities in the air." "I'm not at all nervous," said Natalie, "but I think they ought to have passed the bills." "That goes without saying," he replied. "It seems fearfully unjust, though, that the trouble comes to the innocent instead of the guilty, don't you think?" "There won't be any trouble," said Natalie calmly. "It's all going to be settled very soon." They said goodbye on the train platform, and she waved him a smiling adieu as the train pulled out. She was gone all day, not returning until late in the afternoon. She looked tired but triumphant, dusty but calmly content. Mrs. Dupre had been very anxious about her, for history-making had marched apace during the hours of her absence, and the older wisdom of the older woman was uneasy over some of the imminent dangers. "I'm so glad to see you safe home again," she exclaimed, kissing her affectionately. "I was afraid that the men on the railroads might walk out while you were there and keep you from being able to get back." Natalie began to pull out her hat pins. "I think that I like being conventional," she said seriously. "You know how I have always preferred to go about alone up to now, but really today Louise was no trouble at all, and it made me feel so proper and above reproach, knowing that she was with me." "What did you do?" "Oh, I left her in the ladies' waiting room of the station when I got there, and she waited until I was ready to get her for the coming back." "Did you see the afternoon paper? The headlines are terrible. They say Lefebvre has declared that he will call out every working man in the country if necessary." "Dear me," said Natalie composedly. "Did you read the message that he sent to the head of the government?" "No." Mrs. Dupre took up the paper and turned herself to the light. She did not see the sudden change from carelessness to strained attention in the other's face as she did so, but it was there. The paper was a 5 o'clock edition, and in the letters, doubly leaded, was given the following brief communication. "Sir, you are unquestionably aware of the great discontent that prevails throughout our nation because of the failure of the law-making bodies to pass bills to regulate by a minimum wage the wages of the industrial forces of the country and to increase the pay of the army officers and enlisted men. My judgment is that if these bills are not enacted into law at an early date, serious industrial difficulties may arise. Trusting that you may use your high and good offices in the interest of these beneficent measures, I am, with great respect, yours truly, Ralph Lefebvre, President, United Working Men." "It's a nice letter," said Natalie when the reading terminated. "What did they do about it?" "Nothing yet. The executive sent it to the session, and the session laid it over for consideration." A curious smile encircled Natalie's mouth. "I hope that Lefebvre will keep his word," she said slowly. "Oh, that would mean so much suffering and trouble." "Why doesn't the government act, then, and give the men their rights? God didn't intend the many to work without enough to live on, while the few have much too much." "Natalie, you are an anarchist." "Not at all. I am only beginning to feel strongly. It is only lately that I've begun to learn what feeling strongly is to life." Mrs. Dupre looked down at the paper and said nothing. After a minute, her friend continued. I feel so strongly about Captain Mowbray that it makes me feel strongly about all the rest of mankind, too. Not in the same way, I hope. Well, I feel the same way as far as they're getting paid enough to get married on is concerned. Ah, yes, I understand. But in your case, you have enough for two, dear. Natalie rose suddenly. I haven't enough for two now, she said. This has been a fearfully expensive day for me. Then she went away to her room and remained there until the hour at which dinner was usually served. She came down looking restless and feverish. Mrs. Dupre met her at the foot of the staircase, her own face pale. My dear, she said, do you hear? They are crying extras in the street. Natalie stood still, as if transfixed. After a minute of what was apparently consideration, but which was in truth a sickening sensation of dizziness, she said, Have they begun to call out the employees on the railroads? Yes, on the southern lines. Not on the western? No. She led the way into the library and, pausing in the middle of the room, covered her eyes with her hand for a minute. If he travels all tonight, he won't be able to get back tomorrow, will he? She said, standing thus. Do you want him back tomorrow? Mrs. Dupre asked. You know that I have wanted him every minute since I first saw him standing by that pillar. She went to the window and looked out over the city. There seemed to be an unusual hue and cry swelling out from its evening dusk. The clanging accents of the newsboys dominated every other noise. Their words were, as a rule, undistinguishable. But every few minutes one would pass directly before the house, and then what he was calling became almost painfully clear. Natalie stood looking out until the butler announced dinner. Then she turned, and her friend was struck afresh by the heightened color and emotion in her face. I wonder if anyone knows as much as I know tonight, she said as they moved towards the dining room. Do you know so much? Mrs. Dupre asked in surprise. Yes, I know a great deal. So much that I dare not think how much. So much that it makes me content not to tell even you. I am willing to wait patiently, her friend replied. In her heart, she foreboded some mental breaking down as a result of the long strain of gnawing excitement. The dinner was almost allowed to pass by almost untouched and in absolute silence. After it was over, they retired to the library. The French windows were open, and the insistent hum came in with every little breath of air. Natalie walked up and down. Catherine, she said presently, I have told you over and over that he made me desire to be another woman. He did not just make me want to be changed. He made me capable of changing. He changed me. A woman cannot love a man and watch him fight for the right in the face of what he wants and what she wants, even when he's ill, even when he's weak, month after month, just because of his conscience. She can't watch that and understand it and not change and grow strong, too. I am another woman now. Do you know it? Mrs. Dupre could not find words to reply at once. Before she did find them, Natalie was speaking again. I have always been unlike other women, but today I have become unlike in a new way. I have not been able to understand myself lately. Since last night, I have not been able to understand myself at all. It is as if anything were become possible to me, if only it would bring him back. I think that he will come back, said the friend. Of course he will come back. She was still walking to and fro, and now she approached the window and stopped to listen. A boy going by was yelling with all the force that his lungs possessed. Natalie whirled about. Catherine, she cried. Catherine, do you hear? Mrs. Dupre sprang towards her. Hear what? What is it? All the men on the western roads have gone out. Merciful heavens! Yes, I hear the words distinctly. Oh, I am so glad! He could not have gotten 2 hours upon his way. Mrs. Dupre sank down upon a seat. Don't get nervous, dear, her friend said soothingly. I am afraid that we are on the brink of a revolution. What a crazy notion! It's all quite right, the best way to settle things nowadays. The head of the government and Mr. Lefebvre can manage. They know how. It's only the stupid men who make the laws that need setting to rights, that's all. Mrs. Dupre leaned her head against the tufted silk of the chair back and shut her eyes. Natalie continued to stand by the window. A sort of added excitement seemed to be spreading in the air without. A cloud of unrest and tremulous wonder emanated from the city and floated wider with every human being who walked the street. Something intangible that had been kept under was beginning to surge to the surface tonight. The fresh extras that were being cried continually were the visible beats of a national pulse, the impatient fever of which was being fanned rapidly towards some burning outbreak. "Did you hear, Catherine?" Natalie exclaimed after a little. "Did you hear that?" "I heard nothing." "The men on every railroad in the country have ceased to work." "Oh, most merciful God." Natalie leaned closer to the window. She listened breathlessly. Then she said with emphasis, "Yes, on every road." At that moment, the doorbell rang violently. Mrs. Dupre screamed hysterically, and Natalie turned sharply. "Don't do that, Catherine. Nothing is going to hurt you." The butler came in with a telegram. It was for Mrs. Arundel. She tore it open. "I am going on a mail train. M." She read it aloud to her friend without any comment. Then she returned to the window. Men were hurrying towards the city center, stopping to buy papers each time that a new extra was cried. Natalie watched it all with vivid interest. "There," she said after a while. "That is the third boy who has called that, so it must be true." Mrs. Dupre did not reply. "Are you asleep, or have you fainted?" Natalie asked without turning from the window. "I am trying to be calm." The other's voice shook. "You are not succeeding very well. Don't be so nervous, Catherine. It is all going to be for the best. It is only that. It is the only way. It is beginning to work out now." "How?" Mrs. Dupre asked feebly. "The executive has called a special council of his advisers to meet tonight." "They can't do anything." "No, but perhaps events will help them." Mrs. Dupre began to sob. "You're so silly, Catherine." "I'm so frightened." "That's foolish. Things are getting worse so that they can get better. Even a country has to touch bottom once in a while. When this has gone on a little further, they will have to call out the militia, and then the regulars." She quitted the window and came over, placing her hand upon her friend's, which clung cold and trembling at her bosom. "Catherine," she said, "just wait until then, until they call on the army. Just as soon as the government calls on the army, the whole will be very quickly settled." Her voice rang with such a strange note that Mrs. Dupre was startled in spite of her agitation. "How can you speak so? You know what it is when the troops and the people come into collision. It is the worst of all. Don't think of that. Pray that that may be avoided at all cost." "Not at all," said Natalie. "We are in a situation where only the army can help us. They will do it, I am positive. Trust my word, dear, and let us go to bed and sleep quietly." "Sleep quietly," groaned Mrs. Dupre. "All I can think of is stones crashing in our windows." "No stones will crash, dear. We can make sure of that by going into rooms on the court. Come now." Mrs. Dupre rose feebly to her feet. "Loving a soldier has indeed made you overall new, Natalie." she said, attempting to smile. Personally, all I can think of is the Red Terror and the guillotine. Natalie laughed aloud. Don't laugh. You know this. What has come today is the culmination of years and years of patching up trouble. Natalie laughed again. But our army, Catherine, she said, putting an arm about her and drawing her affectionately closer. You forget our army. We've been strengthening it and disciplining it and giving it every sort of advantage until now, in our hour of need. She stopped. I hear them calling something else, she exclaimed and ran back to the window. What is it? Mrs. Dupre asked. Natalie clapped her hands. It is just what I thought. Tell me quickly, dear, don't torture me. The mail trains have stopped. The government will call out the troops. Oh, oh, oh. Come, Catherine. The younger woman returned at once to her friend's side and drew her arm again about her. Come, poor dear. We'll go upstairs at once. Mrs. Dupre could hardly walk for nervous trembling. Oh, I'm so frightened, she kept saying. They went slowly upstairs, and by the upper newel post she stopped. Oh, what is that? She wailed. Natalie went quickly towards the front of the house. It sounds like a great many voices yelling the same words all together, she replied, leaning out the window. The distant roar drew near. It did appear to be some piece of news shrieked in unison to produce a greater effect. Nearer and nearer, nearer and nearer. It was a body of 2 or 3 dozen boys and men whom some paper had hired for the purpose of thus calling attention to the final coup of the evening. As they came along, others appeared to join their ranks. In the moonlight and gaslight of the approaching midnight, the sight of the moving mass, all keeping time as they walked and chanting their message in unison, was clearly rather unsettling to the imagination. What is it? Mrs. Dupre kept repeating. Oh, tell me what it is. Natalie pushed the window softly down. Dear, she said gently, there will be nothing more to disturb us tonight. No more extras. Lefebvre has called out every working man in the country, and the executive has called out the troops. Mrs. Dupre clung to the newel post. You mean, she faltered. I mean that there will be no more newspapers, no more trains, no more anything until... She paused and thought a minute, and then she added in a curious tone of waiting triumph, Until tomorrow, dear. Until tomorrow. Mrs. Dupre began to cry. Oh, Catherine, how can you? Natalie protested. You always say you love me, and now when you know that everything is happening just to suit me, you cry. To suit you? How to suit you? Sobbed the friend. Why, haven't the mail trains been stopped? He can't go on now, unless he walks. Can he? End of chapter 7.